thank you. Thank you guys for allowing me to be here tonight, say a few words in front of you. I'm always really excited to speak at events like this, when everybody gets together, with something like this has touched their lives. And I think it's a really, really good thing. And I fully support the American Cancer Society and everything they do, because in the end, research is what is going to solve the problem. And that's what they help with. So I want to share a little bit of my story with you guys and the things that my family and I have been through. Like many of you, we've been through a tough situation with cancer. Last summer, in July 2012, my dad, Pete Sr., was diagnosed with glioblastoma brain cancer. And these are kind of the events that led up to that and the things that have gone on since then. So Liz and I, last summer, were scheduled to get married on July 21st, 2012. The wedding was to be in my hometown of Gillespie, or G-Pie as us locals call it. And we had been planning it for over a year. Well, let me rephrase that. Liz's sister, her mom, and my mom. Guys, you know how that goes. On July 4th, 2012, you can imagine things were pretty tense leading up to the big day, trying to get everything in order. Liz and I were about to walk out the door to go see fireworks in Granite City. This is when my phone rang, and it was my mom, and she said that they were taking my dad to the emergency room at the Litchfield Hospital. She said it was no big deal, that I didn't need to come. Well, I knew, and I told Liz, I knew right away that my dad isn't the type of guy that goes to the emergency room with just an acre of thing. He hadn't been to the doctor since I can remember. So we went ahead and got in the car and went. When we got there, my mom told me they had just took him down for a CT scan, and we were waiting for the results of the scan, and they were checking it for carpal tunnel, which is what I thought it was because all the years he spent as a mechanic. So we sat in the waiting room for about 5 minutes waiting for the result of the CT scan. And that's when the doctor came in and he said the words to me and to my family that would change our lives forever. He looked at my dad and he said, "I have some shocking and bad news." He said, "Pete, you have a mass in your brain and it isn't small." As you can imagine, this news shook my family and I to our core. And at first, we just like everyone else that this happens to, were in shock. We thought, things like this won't happen to us. And everybody thinks that until they do. From here, we were sent immediately to St. John's Hospital in Springfield, where upon arrival, my dad got immediately evaluated by the neurosurgeon and his team. It was soon determined that a brain biopsy of my dad's head would be necessary to determine whether or not the mass was malignant. In general terms, a biopsy is not a big deal, but when it's in your brain, it's a different story. For the next day or two, we stayed at the hospital while more tests were run. It was during this time that the reality of the situation really started to sink into us. Up to this point, it felt like we were living in a dream and that none of it was real. It felt like we would wake up and things would be back to normal. And I never realized how good normal was until something like this happened. So getting back to my dad's medical situation. They went in and did the brain biopsy a few days later, taking out a small piece of the mass in his brain to analyze it. After 2 days in the ICU and several days in the neurosurgery recovery unit after the procedure, we were sent home for 1 week to get the home in order until we could get the results of the scan back. 1 week later, we went in to meet with the neurosurgeon and his team to find out the results. They were clear, concise, and not good. The mass was a glioblastoma. And just from the little research I had done throughout the week, I knew from the time the doctor uttered the first syllable, glio, that it was not good. Glioblastoma is a very aggressive, fast-growing type of cancer. At this point, the team of doctors stepped out of the room, and we had about 5 minutes to cry and make the decision on what to do before they came in and needed an answer, and before their assistants came in and started asking us about our health insurance. And keep in mind that it's now currently July 13th. Liz and I's wedding is on July 21st, so it's 1 week away. We had 3 choices at this point. Number 1 was do nothing, which the doctor estimated would give my dad 3 months to live. Number 2 was wait until after the wedding to resect the tumor. Or number 3 was to operate as soon as possible and get it out. Without much thought, we chose option 3 because that's what would give my dad the best chance. After this, we got to go home for the weekend to take care of some things, and on Monday we checked in for the surgery. Before we went in, the doctors and the medical students came in and asked if it would be okay to use my dad as a case study to learn and hopefully help save someone else in the future. We quickly said yes. So the neurosurgeon also asked if my dad would be willing to volunteer to take an experimental drug that they had been developing before the surgery that would hopefully turn the cancerous cells a different color than the non-cancerous cells, giving them a greater chance of getting more of the cancer cells when they went in. The drug had been tried on 8 patients up to that point, and it only partially worked on 1. When my dad went in for surgery, it took about 2 hours longer than they expected. So as you can imagine, we were all very nervous. When the surgeon came out to update us, we were quite relieved to hear him say that it went very well and that the experimental drug had lit up my dad's tumor like a light bulb. This we felt was a miracle. For the next week, my dad was in the ICU recovering and getting intense physical and occupational therapy. They were trying to temporarily fast-track him so that he could get to our wedding. This wasn't like getting a tooth pulled. This was recovering from pretty much the most serious surgery you could have in less than a week's time. The day before the wedding, the doctors and nurses told us that he had about a 1 in 100 chance of making it to the ceremony. And I'll never forget, we just kept fighting and doing all the paperwork. We even had to get him switched hospitals so that he could get a temporary release for the day from our insurance. And I'll never forget the moment when I saw the car pull up with him in it at the church for our wedding ceremony that day. The fact that he was able to make the 1-hour trip to see me get married less than a week after a major brain surgery, we felt was another miracle. Today, my dad is doing well. Even though the left side of his body is partially impaired from the surgery, he has to get an MRI every 3 months just to make sure that the tumor isn't growing back. And so far, the scans have been clean. We actually just went in for a scan on Tuesday, got the results yesterday, and they were clean. So we are all very relieved. Having been through all that, all the statistics, percentages, and timelines regarding cancer and life expectancy mean nothing to me, and they shouldn't to you either, because cancer doesn't know you, it doesn't know your friends, it doesn't know your family, and it doesn't know our support system that we have around us. And I believe that it is greatly underestimated in all of us here today. My mindset towards life is always that we have the power to calculate or create our own attitude no matter what our circumstances are. Since all this happened with my dad, I've become much more aware of how many people's lives have been affected by cancer. As I sat in the hospital with my family all those days, all I could think about besides the help of my dad was how I could help out other people that were in similar situations. To help others financially, in August 2012, I started a 50-50 clothing line called Fight the Fight, clothing that inspires, in which 50% of all the profits are donated to individuals who get large unexpected medical expenses. Today we've been able to donate over $11,000 and counting, and we donate to a new person each week, or every 2 weeks, sorry. And to help others emotionally, we regularly publish survivor stories to our website that have been contributed by the people themselves or that have been written by their friends and family members that have actually been through it, so they're living, breathing evidence that cancer can be beat. So to conclude, I thought about what I would say to a group of survivors if I ever got a chance to speak at an event like this. And I came up with 3 things. Number 1 is never quit. The minute you quit in your mind, your body will begin to give up as well. Every single experience, every single day, every single minute in life is something worth fighting for. You may have to go through the pain and discomfort of radiation, chemo, and surgery, but you must never forget that every speck of time we have here is worth the fight. Number 2, struggle produces strength. Nobody gets where they want to be in life without overcoming adversity. The same goes for all of us. If it was easy to stay fit and healthy and make lots of money, everybody would do it. Cancer is nothing but an obstacle in your path that you have to struggle over, under, through, or around. And the more you have to struggle, the stronger you come out on the other side. Lastly, I think that when something like cancer happens to us, or to a close friend or loved one, we focus a lot on the bad stuff and everything that's going wrong. We forget to enjoy life. And my message is to enjoy every day. Take risks, have fun, move forward, don't hold back. Each and every day is a gift, and we should all live it that way. So I want to leave you by saying this. To all you survivors and all the caregivers and all the friends and family as well, you've done a good job. You've all fought well so far. And every day is a new challenge, and every day you have to remember to rise to it. And I believe that your best days are yet to come.